From the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, this is Nebraska Farmcast. I'm Ryan Evans, and on this episode, we'll take a closer look at the upcoming 2025 Grocery Industry Summit to be held August 21st in Kearney. The event will bring together grocery store owners, industry leaders, policymakers, and innovators to address some of the biggest challenges and opportunities facing grocery businesses across Nebraska and the region. It's hosted by the Nebraska Cooperative Development Center here at UNL and the Nebraska Grocery Industry Association, and it will focus on everything from next-generation ownership and rural grocery sustainability to cooperative partnerships, local foods, and emerging retail technologies. And I'm glad to be joined again by Charlotte Narjes, Director of the Nebraska Cooperative Development Center, and Ansley Fellers, Executive Director of the Nebraska Grocery Industry Association, to share what's in store for this year's event and why a strong grocery industry matters for rural communities and the state as a whole. So, Charlotte and Ansley, I want to thank you both for joining me. And just to start off, if you can both maybe share about what the Grocery Industry Summit is, if you can give a brief overview, how it began, and Ansley, if you'd like to start off with that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate our partnership with the Cooperative Development Center. This is our third annual Grocery Industry Summit, and we've had really great response the last few years. We've developed a website for rural grocery resources that's accessible at nebgrocery.com. As a result of these conferences, folks are taking away a lot of really good information, and that's one thing we're going to focus on this year again is, hey, what did some of our small rural grocers take away last year? And, what are they implementing? That's really important to us to give people some tangible and realistic ideas along with the resources, the valuable resources at UNL and other places that, folks can access and get more information about grants and help with maybe a grocery transition, all the things we're going to talk about today. So just really looking forward to it and appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Ansley. And Charlotte, what does the Nebraska Cooperative Development Center have in store at the Grocery Industry Summit this year?
Well, when it comes to the cooperative side, we've been working with a number of communities again on business transition. As that people have aged in the grocery industry, they have. We're always looking for new models, and in our smaller areas, a lot of times it is the cooperative model, and so we've been working there. And it just, the grocery store is the heart of a community many times and brings them together, and that's what we're just passionate about, helping that.
Great. And who is this summit for? Who are you inviting to attend?
It could be the grocery store owners themselves that are interested in transitioning. It could be those that want to learn more to continue their store. It could be community members that want to help support the store and learn what they can do, as well as the industry members that help to support it.
Awesome. And again, if you want to register for that or find more information, you can visit nebgrocery.com. That's the Grocery Industry Summit, August 21st in Kearney. And Charlotte, rural grocery stores in particular face a unique set of challenges. If you could talk about the rural grocery cohort and the panel at the summit that will be dedicated to that topic, maybe some of the key findings or lessons that are going to be planned to share there.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Yes, as you mentioned, there's a lot of unique sets of challenges, and Ansley, please fill in more with the Industry Association. You hear them often. But it's about volume and what people can buy, and in our small communities, the risk and getting the groceries there that are affordable for those communities, members to be able to purchase there and not want to drive a long ways to go to Walmart. And it's just about keeping that sense of place there. When I think of the rural grocery cohort, we've been partnering with the Center for Rural Affairs. They received a grant from the Sherwood Foundation that's allowed us to work with a number of grocers across the state the last 8-9 months, where we've had different educational sessions, and they learn from each other and what some success panels are. And when it comes to the lessons learned, I think the biggest is that they know they're not alone. There are resources out there, and actually, the day before the summit, we're going to have a little session where they can share more about what that is. And we'll be learning more what they're planning to take away. And as Ansley said, there's from this grocery summit too, what do they take away?
Great. And Ansley, I know one of the sessions at the summit will focus on next generation owners. We've kind of alluded to that already, but what kinds of transitions are you seeing in grocery store ownership across the state or region? And how is the industry then working to support new owners or the successors to current owners, especially in rural areas?
Sure. So, we talk a lot about transitions in ownership and next generation leaders in a lot of industries. I know in agriculture, we have this conversation a lot. Obviously, in small business, especially, we see these family owned businesses who might, some of our grocers, our small rural grocers out there are on second, third, fourth generation. And while, our kind of the population that's been working for a while, that's been developing contacts and the resources. The next generation, obviously, has a lot of learning. It has an uphill battle, no matter what the industry is. So we're just trying to give them the resources, the opportunities, whether it's related to capital, whether it's related to some innovative ideas, to some new technology, to things that might make their lives a little bit easier. These folks are really open to ideas and they really care a lot about their communities. And even some folks that aren't second, third, fourth generation, we're seeing some young families take interest in going back and running these stores, and that's really exciting. It's good for rural communities. It's good for these families, but they need support. They need resources. Sometimes just connections to folks who have good advice. And the other side of that too, we're seeing. I know Charlotte mentioned this, and the Cooperative Development Center sees this a lot, but we're also seeing communities step up, and we're seeing communities step up to either support those young families that want to take over, or in other ways, like developing a cooperative and, pitching in with volunteers. We have a handful of those small stores in different places where, they have maybe a couple of employees, but there's a lot of volunteers and there's a lot of community buy-in and community assistance. And, we all know that it takes a village in that way to make some of these places work.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Ansley. And in that vein, Charlotte, partnerships and cooperatives are on the agenda. So how can collaboration, if you can talk more about collaboration between local businesses, communities, and cooperatives, help grocery stores stay viable to meet changing customer needs?
I think the best way to answer that is that when there's a grocery store, we've had some communities that have lost their grocery store, and that has impacted every other business along the street. If you're not buying your groceries in that town, you're not maybe going to go to the hardware store or what other services. When you go to that other community, you're going to purchase it. We've also had communities, Emerson is one example that's shared this in a recent report the Center for Rural Affairs submitted. They did not have that many businesses on the front street, and as the grocery store opened, other people came, and so they collaborate together. It also minimizes risk, the minimization of the risk for the profit or buying. The grocery store costs a lot of money, the refrigeration, the building, and a young owner, as Ansley mentioned, may want to come in, but they won't have that money and get the return on investment out of all of that. So working together, whether it's by a cooperative or partnerships in that investment, that community helps supports, it helps minimize the risk for that business to be successful.
And I know the summit will wrap up with a look at new technologies like walkout or cashierless checkout systems. So Ansley, what role do you see innovation and technology playing in the future of independent and rural grocery stores in particular?
We love the idea that, we talk a lot about innovation and technology, and we really appreciate seeing it put into action. And I think the folks that we're going to have come talk about taking an idea that was floated somewhere else and implementing it here in Nebraska really opens the door for everybody to embrace some of that technology, maybe ease a little bit of the labor, the cost burden on some of these stores. Everybody is looking at, grocery is such a tight margin industry that everybody is looking at any angle they can to save some time, save some money, and really offer the best customer service and the best prices to their customers. Again, it's such a competitive industry and such a tight margin industry that anything that can give you an edge, our folks know that they provide the best customer service. They're right there. They're engaged in their communities. They're supporting their communities. They're supporting the backpack programs and, any of the school fundraisers and anybody that walks through their doors. But they also, want to set themselves apart in other ways. And I think the more we can embrace this stuff, the better off we're all going to be in those small communities. And we play a role in just introducing them to what some of the opportunities are, and really whatever kind of assistance, technical assistance we can provide, any of experts we can connect them to. We definitely want to do that.
Great. And I understand this is the third year of the summit. So can you talk about coming back for a third year now, what you've maybe learned or heard from attendees in the past 2 years, and again, why people should attend and what they can stand to gain from attending this year's Grocery Industry Summit on August 21st in Kearney?
One thing we do every year, we always have a folder. We started this, we have our vendors and some of the people attending. Certainly you can bring handouts, you can hand people stuff. But one thing we started doing a couple of years ago was just creating drives and allowing people to access those document and resource drives at the summit. So we've got, 3 years of collective information, just contact information, the presentations that folks give at the summit, and one-pagers about some of the issues they bring up or the technology they present. And then again, we have that rural grocery resources page, that whole page that, links to the Cooperative Development Center, links to the State Department of Ag, goes to SourceLink Nebraska, where you can find more information about grants and grant writing assistance, all kinds of things. And I think that was the number one reason we wanted to do this, was to connect, not just, Charlotte mentioned this, and it's really important, I think, for these folks to get in a room together and share stories and talk about how, they're not alone and they're all experiencing similar challenges, and trade information about best practices and good tips, but also then just access, have easy access to the information that might make their lives a little bit easier, and make their operations a little bit smoother. So I think there's a lot of really good reasons to attend.
I think every time I look at myself, you hear new ideas and other resource providers who, even though we might understand what someone can do, once you get to know them and understand the situations, the industry wants to help that grocery store succeed as well, and making those connections and getting connected to the Grocery Industry Association. I've mentioned we partner together a lot. We have limited resources. Ansley does, Center for Rural Affairs, and other organizations, and working together, I think we also share an example of how we can help solve solutions.
Again, the 2025 Grocery Industry Summit is taking place August 21st from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. in Kearney at the Eunice Conference Center. Registration is open now on the Nebraska Grocery Industry Association's website. You can go to nebgrocery.com and find details on that and get registered. And again, we've been talking with Ansley Fellers, Executive Director of the Nebraska Grocery Industry Association, and Charlotte Narjes, Director of the Nebraska Cooperative Development Center. That's here at UNL. And we will link to both of their websites in the notes to this podcast. Ansley, Charlotte, I want to thank you for your time again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate it.
Nebraska Farmcast is a production of the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. For the latest research-based information and education resources to manage your farm or ranch operation, visit our website at cap.unl.edu. That's cap.unl.edu.